Welcome to Hybiz Conversations. My name is Suresh Kochatil. Today we have with us Giridhar Mamidi, General Secretary of Pregna Bharati, Telangana, a chartered accountant, a finance man who has a grasp on corporate and industry affairs. Giridhar has deep domain knowledge on what's wrong or what is right with the micro, small and medium enterprises. So let's start the conversation with Mr. Giridhar by asking him a few questions about the state of the Indian economy post the COVID-19 lockdown and how the industry is going to perform or perish from here. To start with, Mr. Giridhar, how do you read the impact of the COVID-19 on the Indian economy, especially considering the fact that we had two lockdowns, one the initial one and the extended one, and the micro, small and medium enterprises are literally battling for their lives?
I am basically a chartered accountant with a law degree. I've not practiced, but I was in the industry for several years, more than a couple of decades. I had seen the highs and lows of many industries. I was the first head of finance of Google India. Then I was the CFO of the entire IT parks and SEZs of DLF. And I've seen multinational companies across the globe, and I've worked in Gulf. So with my vast experience, I've seen how the corporate world behaves, acts, and how the governmental policies and actions impact the corporates. This Chinese Wuhan coronavirus, or some people would want to call it as CCP virus, Chinese Communist Party virus. I don't want to call it by any other name. This particular pandemic that we are all facing has really shaken up not just India, but across the globe, the entire finance, economy, lifestyles, social structures, everything has been shaken, because this has never happened in the history of humankind till date. So let's see its impact as far as India is concerned. As far as India is concerned, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a very bold decision. It is a very, very bold decision to lock it down pretty early in the pandemic, whereas many other countries did not even do it. And he was probably the first one to really ban flights coming in and out of China and many other countries. So we are relatively in a comfort zone, but then the disruption is real, and disruption is very hard for the Indian economy. The problem is it is an imposed pandemic, it's an imposed emergency, not necessarily something which has happened because there is a world recession. Even during the 2008 recession, India was doing fairly well, because we are a consuming economy. Largely what we produce, we consume. Just for a few sectors here and there which are export oriented, rest of the economy did not face that kind of a brutal brunt. But this is different. The kind of disruption that has happened in logistics, in terms of production, supply chain, everything has taken a bad hit. Going forward, I do not see a major revival, not just for India but across the globe, because many industrial verticals are going to go. We all are aware that entertainment industry or food and eateries, especially eateries, hospitality industry, and travel, especially luxury travel, and maybe even luxury clothing, event management, all these verticals are going to take a major hit. We don't know how many of them would survive this pandemic once we've taken control of this. At least for the next year, couple of years, you see a major disruption in these things. Yet there are also opportunities like in the medical field or in sanitation field, or probably in wellness industry, maybe yoga, maybe so many others which are likely to do better. Right? And then tech industry, you're going to see a lot of technology oriented education, technology oriented conferencing, technology oriented medication. So we're going to see a major turmoil.
The impact of COVID-19 on the micro, small and medium enterprises need not be stressed. They're literally gasping for breath looking down on an abyss. According to you, what should be done to keep this segment alive and kicking?
In this process, what happens is the small, medium enterprises are the worst hit. The sad part of it is that most of these industries are literally for hand-to-mouth existence. Unless the supply chain works, unless the blood flows in the system, money and material flow into the system, their survival is difficult. Sudden disruption, not of their choice, is going to hurt them very badly. Yet, the government of India took a bold decision to save lives, because the first priority was to save lives. But then economy now needs to take priority while ensuring the lives are still safe. Problem here is somewhere the bureaucracy doesn't seem to understand the real problems. They seem to be thinking in terms of it's just a 20 or a 30-day disruption. It is not a 30-day disruption. It is a whole lifestyle change. After 30 days, on the 31st day, people are not going to go into a restaurant and then have a party or something like that. No, it's not going to happen. So what will happen to this entire industry? People are not going to fly on flights the way they used to do it. We used to, many airlines used to bounce off people because they were excess booked. All that is going to go. So it is not the attitude, this attitude of a lot of people in the bureaucracy is very wrong. That is going to hurt us. That is going to hurt the industry. While the Prime Minister and his top ministers are very sensitive and they really want to give comfort to people at the grassroots level, the industry at the grassroots level, that doesn't seem to be percolating down as efficiently.
The Reserve Bank of India and the Government of India, through the Finance Ministry, had announced a slew of measures to kind of offset the financial crisis and the liquidity crunch in the industry. But we don't seem to have much of confidence. The industry is really at a lackluster mode right now. What, according to you, is the issue? 1,70,000 crores was sanctioned to overcome this burden, to infuse cash into the system. The repo rate has been reduced by Reserve Bank of India. CRR has been reduced. They did their best to infuse more liquidity into the banking system. Yet, the banks are reluctant to pass it down the road. The problem is, when the announcement was made, it was sudden, it was immediate, which was correct. But then, when they started really realizing what the challenges are, the messaging is not really reaching up to the top management, top leadership of the country the way it should. There is some filtration going on. And similarly, the other way around. What the policy decisions they are making are not really percolating it down. So there is a challenge that we have. Our banking system post the UPA 2 era saw a lot of scandals in terms of NPAs and loan defaults. What, according to you, actually ails the Indian banking system? What's the problem, Mr. Giridhar? Banks faced a serious challenge in terms of governmental action on their NPA, entire NPA story. NPAs are in two categories, as we all know. One NPA, which is really because of the industry slowdown or Chinese dumping, and then business risk related NPA. But the second one is more to do with the fraud, more to do with fraudulent actions or concealment or siphoning out money. That NPA took prominence, and when the government went after those NPAs, we find that the banking system suddenly went into panic mode. Their risk appetite more or less disappeared. Please understand, even the bank manager or the bank management are employees. If they had taken risk, probably they would have started their own industry, their own business. But they are employees. Their mindset is one of a risk-averse mindset they have. Micro, medium, small, everybody seems to have a problem. There's a crisis of confidence in this sector, which anyway was not doing really well, even say a couple of years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago. What, according to you, is this crisis of confidence?
Now with this Chinese virus hitting us very hard, they don't want to take a risk. So we find that really badly impacting the micro and small medium enterprises. Funds are not flowing in because it is not a normal world. We take a couple of examples where let's say somebody has worked for a governmental contract. The material is ready, finished goods is ready, it's about to be shipped, and then the lockdown happened. Government is not coming for inspection or clearing it. His entire working capital is stuck there. How can he pay salaries of his employees? How can he pay the rent? So these are all micro issues which should have been addressed. The government is feeling that, or at least the top political leadership is assuming that by infusing liquidity, the liquidity is going to percolate down to these people and they will be able to manage it. Unfortunately, that is not happening. When it comes to the banking system is still thinking in terms of their prudence, how do they define NPAs. In fact, some banks wanted to categorize people who are going to exceed the NPA norms in these 3 months as well. Finally, a clarification came, and so they at least avoided it for now. But after 3 months, they're going to categorize them, which is ridiculous. By the time this entire supply chain is going to be re-established and the confidence is going to change and the people's consumption pattern are going to return back to normalcy, you would see it's not 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 1 year, it could be 1.5 years. In fact, some industries it could take as long as 2 years. Categorizing them as NPAs is wrong. So every section of the economy needs to revisit their existing thought process, and that has to also reach up to the government. Unfortunately, it is not happening as of now, but let's hope these things are going to happen.
As I said before, the Finance Ministry, the Reserve Bank of India, and the government itself had announced a slew of measures. What more do you think the government of India needs to do to kickstart the entire ecosystem once the lockdown is eased post May 3rd?
From the point of view of professional institutions like chartered accountancy, they always had this concept of either you're a going concern or you're not a going concern. So how do you define this? Are you a going concern or are you not going concern? The disruption is going to last for a couple of years probably, and you will come back. Maybe you'll go into a snooze mode and come back. So you need to come out with a guidance note of how do you deal with this pandemic, right? Similarly, the banks need to revisit this entire I would call it absolute nonsense of a norm with regard to NPAs. The whole NPA business itself, 180 days or whatever it is, it's Western import. They look at their economy a quarter to quarter, which is wrong. We need to revisit it based on our experience on the ground. I would strongly recommend that government be sensitive and government listens to what is happening on the ground. Government keeps its ears wide open and then listen to what is happening on the ground. Unfortunately, we don't find signs of it yet. Once the panic mode is over, we hope that they would be more sensitive and respond to this. Our bigger challenge is to take business from China and not have these kinds of issues locally.
The Indian bureaucracy, a relic of the British Raj, had its stranglehold for a long time. In the Modi 1.0 regime, Mr. Narendra Modi seemed to have the bureaucracy under control. But in Modi 2.0, there seems to be a problem, especially the Finance Ministry, where the bureaucrats are running the show. What is wrong with the Indian bureaucracy? Why are they proving to be hurdles in the industrial development and also in ensuring that the Indian economy picks up? What's their problem, Mr. Giridhar?
It is a fact that bureaucracy knows ways and means of taking charge. Unfortunately, especially in the second version of Modi 2, we are finding this happening very regularly. The Finance Ministry more or less is completely taken over by the bureaucracy, and this is a reality. We have heard stories that industry was unwilling to meet the finance minister, and so Prime Minister had come in. We all know that in that meeting finance minister was not there. So there is an issue that the bureaucracy has not changed its mindset yet. The coercive methods they are using, it's still continuing. You can call it tax jihad, tax terrorism, whatever name you want to call that, that has not changed. So just because you have 5% dark sheep, you're not going to penalize the rest of the 95% of the people. And Modi ji had promised in several of his meetings, several of his speeches, that what is past is past. I want you to be honest and run your business honest now. That doesn't seem to be percolating into the administration. They seem to be dictating the way the governmental agencies interact and react to the general economy. So we find this hardening of the bureaucracy, which is actually hurting the economy, and it is hurting the image of the government as well. Somewhere this area has to be focused by Prime Minister to really rein in the bureaucracy. Political leadership has to assert itself. We hope and we wish that the Finance Minister, the Home Minister, and the Prime Minister, all of them would give the directions and make the bureaucracy be sensitive. By nature, by design, the bureaucracy is insensitive and they are status quo in their mindset. So they do not want to change come what may. For them, it's just a 15-20 day disruption. They do not understand that this is a massive disruption, worldwide disruption, and it has long-term repercussions. That they are not understanding. Because Prime Minister is extremely receptive and he understands the societal changes and societal moods, I think it is incumbent upon him to really rein in this bureaucracy and bring in some succor. Because the larger threat to India is China. It is not your internal challenges. Internal challenges can be overcome because we have a larger opportunity to bring China in and we have a larger threat to control China. The notification that was issued was very correct, where countries bordering India cannot invest without the governmental clearance. That was a correct decision. But in this virtual world, it may not be China. It could be some company from Cayman Islands or Mauritius or Europe or somewhere. We do not know a third, fourth, fifth layer. It could be China. So we still have a threat. I don't think we have overcome that threat. If the bureaucracy is compromised, the blame will ultimately rest with the Prime Minister. We wish and hope that the right decisions will be made and made soon so that we survive as an economy and we will be able to face up to the challenge of the dragon.
Mr. Giridhar, thank you for speaking to us at Hybiz News. Your deep domain knowledge, your expertise in finance has clearly come out in this conversation. I'm sure the Government of India maybe will listen to your points and work out the rectification measures. Thank you very much for speaking to us. And to our viewers, thank you for watching.